Hello, and welcome to the first in a series of, sorry, I think I started just a few seconds too early. So again, I'll say hello, and I just want to thank you for joining me here at what is going to be the first in a series of Hangouts Live from 7th Gen Academy. And my name is Rich Artichoker, and I am the founder and creator of the 7th Gen Academy. And thanks. Thanks for coming. So this is a kind of a new format for me. A lot of times when I make videos, I usually do kind of a scripted thing. I research my topics and try to stay on a topic when I make videos or when I do blog posts for the 7th Gen Academy. But today I want to do something a little bit different. This is going to be more of a just stream of consciousness, and just going to talk about whatever comes to mind. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is I want to introduce you guys to what the 7th Gen Academy is, what it means to me, why I'm doing this, and what I hope to accomplish. So the 7th Gen Academy came to me. Well, not the original idea for the 7th Gen Academy came to me over 25 years ago. I had just graduated from Music Tech of Minneapolis. I'd spent a year there working with some really awesome people, the staff and the other students and musicians there that attended the Music Tech, and it was a great experience for me, and it really showed me what could be done when a group of people got together in support of each other. And especially in the music business, which, if you're a musician and if you've been doing this for a while, you know that the music business is really, it's a wonderful thing. It's a fun thing. It can be really a great experience to be involved in the music world and in music in general. But it's also not by any imagination any kind of a guaranteed paycheck. It's not exactly like working a 9-to-5 job where you go to work for 40 hours a week and you pretty much know at the end of 2 weeks you're going to be getting a paycheck. It's not like that at all. You may have times when you are doing very well, and you may have times when you really struggle, and that's just the nature of the business. So when I had graduated from Music Tech, I had returned home to the Rosebud Indian Reservation, which is my home and where I grew up, and I started to get back into the music scene there. Now, the Rosebud Indian Reservation, much like many other Indian reservations in this country, it's an area of economic economic depression, and so there weren't a lot of opportunities there. Really, the only places for a musician to play were at parties hosted by local residents, parties, dances, and the local bars. And none of those gigs ever really paid well. They paid okay, but and when when you're in your 20s, you don't really care that you might be making $40 a night to play, and you might be driving many miles to get there to do that. It's just more important to play. You just felt that need to play. So it was a good thing because I got to play with a lot of different musicians, and out of that I began getting this vision for an organization, a group of a way for musicians to come together and support each other, and also to create this organization where we could provide that sense of community, camaraderie, and to support each other, to create collaborative opportunities, to maybe have some sort of an organizational structure where we could even consider doing things like finding lawyers and other people in the entertainment industry who understand the business and legal aspects of the entertainment industry, and to have them contribute as consultants to offer help for musicians, particularly Native American musicians, but also, you know, any musicians that are living and working in low opportunity areas, you know, whether it be a rural environment or just an area that may be economically depressed and doesn't have much of a music market happening. So those are the kind of folks that I had in mind when I first started thinking about what the 7th Gen Academy ultimately was going to be. And played around in some of the local bands and did a lot of bar gigs, and got really bored with that after a very short time. And I decided I wanted to create, I wanted to make my own band, and I wanted to have that band be something, I wanted that band to be focused on all original music, or as much original music as possible, and to really be a real band, to get our stuff out there, to reach new audiences, to be able to travel the world and do a lot of the type of things that you think of when you think about starting a band that you want to grow and to become successful in. So I got together a group of musicians and we played and we wrote songs, and we did something right away that I think was in a way kind of ahead of its time, because you got to remember this was like 1991, 92, 91, 92, somewhere around there. Not only did we form a band, and not only did we write our own music, but we also kind of focused, we kind of had a underlying theme, and that was, our underlying theme was pride, you know, cultural pride in, you know, for us it was the Lakota culture and our home of the Rosebud Indian Reservation, but also all Indian reservations, you know, native people everywhere. We were focused on, you know, trying to endorse cultural pride for young people, because at the time we were seeing the beginnings of what was going to eventually turn into kind of an epidemic of youth suicide attempts on the reservations. And so we kind of used our music and our message behind the music, and also our notoriety amongst our community, within our community, to help Native people, help young Native people. And so we played at a lot of schools, and we gave a lot of talks to youth groups, and we talked about, you know, some of the members of the band had been involved with drugs and had difficult upbringings, you know, maybe some abuse in their family, you know, a variety of different things. And we talked freely about those things in order to try to reach out to and connect with our audience and with the young people that we were trying to reach. And so we got a lot of attention very quickly because of that. You know, we kind of attached ourselves to a social issue that was occurring in and, you know, around our communities at the time. And because of that, people just kind of seemed to really pay attention to us very quickly, and we got a lot of notoriety. We got showcased on local and state news outlets, you know, the newspaper articles, and we got the opportunities to play in a lot of different places. And so one of the places that we played was in New York City, and we met a woman who was involved in the music business there, who was she did various things in the music business. Her name was Ellen Bello, and we spent, you know, several days talking to Ellen. And it was then that myself and some of the other members of the band talked to her about our vision for what we were trying to accomplish through our music, you know, because it wasn't just about, you know, rock and roll. It wasn't just about playing music. It was about helping people. It's about helping others. And through that, she ended up creating the Native American Music Awards. You know, she went on to take that idea and to use that idea to inspire herself to create this Native American Music Awards, because she wasn't aware that for a lot of Native American musicians, they don't have a lot of opportunities. There's kind of a glass ceiling. Native people that are in the music business, that are proud and really display their heritage. It kind of creates almost like a niche market, almost a micro niche market for themselves. So they kind of end up bumping up against this glass ceiling which exists in the music business for, you know, people who kind of do fall into that micro niche market, you know, meaning they're probably never going to have that mass appeal that a lot of major labels want. They're not going to be the worldwide superstars that a lot of the major labels are looking for. That's not to say that that's the case. That's the way it is in every case, but in many cases, that's kind of the way the music industry and the major labels looked at Native artists. And so we wanted to not only help Native youth, you know, the vision kind of also evolved into this thing where we wanted to create this organization that would help Native artists and artists in rural areas and areas of low opportunity to grow their careers and to really make a much greater impact in the music marketplace. So that's where this kind of came from, and evolved over a period of probably 1 or 2 years in my head. And the guys in my band, they were kind of on board with the whole thing. And so, and in particular, my drummer, he really seemed to get it. And so we did a lot of promotion and stuff, and eventually, unfortunately, my band broke up, and I stopped playing out about 13 years ago. But this idea for this organization has still kind of been sitting there in the back of my mind, kind of simmering on a low boil this whole time. And I've, you know, with all the changes that have occurred in the music industry today, I really felt like it was something that I wanted to really try to get back in touch with, to try to do something with, and try to work with in some way artists, not only Native artists, not only artists in where I find themselves in circumstances where they might not have many opportunities to express themselves, because the internet has really been a major factor in leveling the playing field. You know, now with Facebook and YouTube and all the other social media and all the other services that are now available to artists, you know, anybody from any little ragtag community in the middle of nowhere can, as long as they have an internet connection, can connect to a worldwide audience. And so the opportunity now is pretty much the same for everybody, which wasn't always the case. You know, if you grew up in a little rinky-dink community like I did, really, you know, when I was coming up and I was in my teens and early 20s, I wish I had $1 for every time somebody told me, well, you need to move to Los Angeles, you're never going to make it here. Well, you know, at that time we proved them wrong, because we made it as far as we could. Internal problems within the band kind of cut our journey short, but we still had a pretty good amount of success considering the short time that we were together. The band lasted about 3.5 years, and during that time we were offered 3 recording contracts. We had traveled over a good portion of the Midwestern part of the United States. We played in New York City. We were in the process of talking with people to go out and play several of the universities in California, Berkeley, University of UCLA, you know, different places where we could, you know, begin maybe getting into more of a college market. You know, we were doing a lot of different things. We'd had songs that were getting played on the radio. We had, you know, a lot of bootleg copies of our music that were kind of floating around, which is another thing that was kind of before its time kind of a thing. We never actually released an album, but yet people seem to be able to get copies of our recorded songs in their hands. And some of those came from the radio stations because people, you know, knew the DJ and they made copies of the songs and various things. So, I mean, it was kind of interesting, because now in 2016, you're seeing kind of this, the resurgence of creating this bootleg music. You know, artists are sharing their music for free. You're seeing that model starting to become more and more of a thing where various artists are giving away a lot of music and using that as a way to build rapport and to deepen and build and deepen the relationship with their fans, which I think is a wonderful thing. The thing is some of those artists, they do know kind of what the end game is, where that leads to next, and how they're going to continue to make a living as an artist, despite the fact that they're giving away their music. And there are some artists who don't have a clue. They're just trying to get heard. They just want to be heard. And that's one thing I hear a lot when I speak to artists, especially the younger musicians who haven't had to deal with the kind of the chicanery that can go on in the music industry. They want to do anything to get heard, and that's a good attitude on the one hand, because it does get you out there, and it's a good way to get opportunities to be able to play, anywhere and everywhere, and not be so worried about the money at that point in your career. But it also leaves you open to being taken advantage of too. So you got to be smart. So that's kind of a brief history, like a really brief kind of almost a oversimplification of the history of who I am and where I come from and what the 7th Gen Academy is. The 7th Gen Academy is named after my old band, which was 7th Generation, which we named after a line from a prophecy that was spoken by one of our Lakota holy men from the last century, man by the name of Black Elk, who talked about how the tree of life for the Lakota people would be in decline for 7 generations, and in the 7th generation you would begin to see a rebirth of Lakota culture and the Lakota people. So that's where that name came from, and that's where the name for the 7th generation, or 7th Gen Academy, also comes from. And it's one of those things. It's at the core. It's one of the core values behind what I'm doing and why I want to do it. It is, my original intention was to do whatever I could to help my fellow Native American brothers and sisters trying to succeed in the music business. But as I've continued to grow and to talk to people about this project and continue to evolve this project, I've definitely thought more and more about how there's more than just Native American people that need to learn how to kind of marry that entrepreneurial aspect of being in the music business to the artist part of being in the music business. I think far too many musicians are just solely focused on wearing that artist hat, and they don't think deeply enough about the entrepreneurial side of things, and how to really connect with their audience. They connect with their audience on an artistic level, on an interpersonal level, but they don't connect with their artists, their audience, and their fans on a level that generates that contributes more value, and also creates a customer entrepreneur customer type of relationship with this person. And whether we like it or not, we have to be entrepreneurs. And I apologize, it's late in the day, and the sun is kind of starting to set, and so therefore it's coming right into a window here, and so I get a lot of glare coming at me from this one side, so I apologize for that. But anyway, a lot of young artists, they really struggle with the idea of marrying the artist with the entrepreneur. And I've spoken with a number of artists in the last year or two who, when I started asking them the question, what do you want? What do you want out of your music career? They say, I hear the same thing over and over again. Well, I want to be heard. I want to be heard. I want to get my stuff out there. I want to get it heard. That's what I hear over and over again. You know, it doesn't matter who I talk to. That's just kind of that same kind of generic response. And well, when I asked him, well, how are you gonna sustain your career? How are you gonna pay for, you know, the things that you want in your life? And nobody seems to have any really good answers. Well, they want to try to sell CDs and they want to try to go on tour. And then when I start bringing up, well, you know, it costs money to record and to master and then print CDs. And also it costs money to go on tour. Probably a lot more money than you realize if you've never been on tour. So all those things you need to be thinking like a business person. You need to realize that there are logistics involved with having a musical career. And if you want that career to be sustainable, you have to be thinking about, well, where is your income coming from? What's your bread and butter? How are you going to make that money in order to sustain that career? And you know, that's one of the things with the new music business, what I call the music industry 2.0. And this is one of the things I think, you know, most artists who are out there now have heard, or if they've been in the music business for a while, they recognize that the music industry has changed. It's changed over the last 10 years. And, you know, they know that CD sales are less than they used to be, and then it's harder to get paid using the traditional means, selling CDs, selling singles, even to some degree selling merchandise. I think merchandise is actually probably doing better than CD sales, but also even like going on tour. And especially for the people that I'm really focused on, my particular market, my particular tribe, those folks that are in low opportunity types of settings, you know, maybe living on an Indian reservation or in a very rural environment or someplace where there's not much of a music market, where you can't just, you know, like a big city, like say, for example, New York or LA or even Chicago or Minneapolis, where you can't just, you know, get involved with several bands and go out and play 4 or 5 nights a week. You know, if you live in a very rural area and you may only get to play out 2 or 3 times a month, you know, so you may not be able to make a lot of money. And if you want to go out and play and make a living playing, I mean, you got to go out and basically tour. You got to go out and find gigs, you know, where you may have to travel to, and that all costs money. So I think a lot of people just, you know, they need to understand that the way that business is done now is different. And one of the things that I really promote anytime I work with a young artist, I do any kind of consulting work, one of the things that I definitely talk to them about is developing their own website. And I think this is a really central and important thing for any musical artist. If you want to have a musical career, you got to have a website, because the website is where you want to direct people, where they can get the full experience of being involved with your band, where you can offer all of your merchandising, all of your CDs, all of your downloads, but also you can create special offers. You can do a lot of different things with your website that you may not be able to do at any one of the other services that are out there. And I know there are quite a few services out there that offer a lot, that have, you know, that create a lot of value for their clients, us musicians. CD Baby, TuneCore, for example, you know, they get your music out on streaming services. They distribute them to, you know, all the major outlets and all these other things. You know, there's services like Reverb Nation also, you know, offer really quite a good package, you know, a number of services that are beneficial to artists. But, you know, in the end, what you want to do is, as a business, when you begin thinking as a business person, one of the things that you'll realize is that you want to keep growing. You want to find new ways to deepen and broaden the relationship between yourself and your customer, but also new ways to continue to grow your revenue. And I know a lot of artists don't like to talk about that, but it is important. You know, it is important because every year the cost of living goes up. Every year the cost of your basic things go up. Guitar strings, you know, I got a bass guitar and my electric guitar sitting behind me, and I used to pay $3.50 for strings. Now they're $8.50. You know, so that, you know, everything costs money, more money over time. So you also have to be finding new ways to generate more revenue over time. And your website is one of the ways that you can do that. You can create special events. You can create special offers. You can have, you know, create a membership website, like a VIP fan website, you know, different things that you can, there are just a number of different things that you can do to generate more revenue, and while at the same time generating more value for your fans and deepening the relationship between you and your fans. So that was kind of a long rant, and I don't know if I really kind of created enough separation between those topics, but hopefully you'll forgive me, because this is my first of the Hangouts, and so as we do more of these, hopefully it'll become a lot smoother. So yeah, like I said before, this is going to be kind of a stream of consciousness type of a little project, and so some of these sessions might just be rants about various things that are bugging me in the music industry 2.0, whether it be the ignorance of some musicians, or you know, just the various things that I see people doing in the music business that just aren't really getting them where they need to be, you know. And I think, you know, one of the things that I think is important, because, you know, in 2016 now, most people are, like I said before, most people are aware that the music industry is different, and the internet has changed the music industry forever. And a lot of the well-established artists, the older artists, are you know, throwing their hands in the air and going, you know, the music industry is dead. This sucks. You know, we're not making any money. But at the same time, there are artists out there that are making money, that are making anywhere from, you know, a few $100s a month all the way up to 6 figures a year by really developing their strategies to do just what I talked about just a few minutes ago. You know, really focusing on and attracting, you know, the right type of fans, you know, the fans that really like what they do and really appreciate them and are willing to pay for, you know, to be involved in that artist's whole thing. You know, it's a wonderful thing when you find that, when you find your tribe, you know, your people, the people that really appreciate you and are willing to support you, you know. And, you know, finding, and there's, the thing about it is, and this is one thing that is kind of that is a rant-worthy type of a topic. You know, there's a lot of, there's getting to be a lot of bloggers and a lot of internet gurus out there, you know, myself included, who are talking about how they have the solution to being successful in the music industry, you know, today. And they probably do have, you know, especially if they can, you know, boast that they've, you know, they're selling, you know, maybe they're saying that they're selling $10,000 worth of music and merchandise a month, or they're going on tour and making, you know, $100,000 off of their tour or whatever, and they found a way to do it. And that's great. That's awesome. But the thing that bugs me about it in general is, and I think if you really think about it, I think most of us kind of know this in our hearts, there really isn't any one way for every artist out there to succeed and to connect to their audience. and their tribe. There's probably as many different ways as there are artists, or at least as many different ways as there are different genres and subgenres of music, and different personality types in the world. So anybody who tells you that they've got the solution, the one solution that is going to work for you and for everybody else, well, they're probably telling you something, which, again, it may work. I'm not saying that it won't, but the thing is I think we all know that, that this is one of those things. The music industry, having a music career, is one of those things where it's kind of a individualized thing. Your act, you as a musician, your band, has its own personality, its own mystique, and finding the way to stay true to that, to be what's the word I'm looking for? To be honest and sincere. To be sincere about that, and really connect with those fans that appreciate who you are as an artist. That's an individual thing, but at the same time, there are entrepreneurial and business fundamentals that I think these different gurus, including myself, can teach you. Understanding how to improve your presence on social media, understanding which social media might be the best or most effective for you to use, how to really understand what it is that your particular fans want and what they need from you in order to deepen that relationship. Those types of things. Those are things that you and a good career coach, consultant can work through. And I've ever since I stopped playing out 13 years ago, one of the things I started doing was I started researching and learning about internet marketing on my own. And over the years, I've paid probably close to $2,000 to be parts of different programs, to learn from different gurus in the internet marketing industry. And one of the things that I discovered was that most of them are basically teaching the same thing. And most of them have set up their businesses so that it kind of runs on autopilot, which means that for you as the student, you end up with this cookie cutter lesson plan that's supposed to, be a one size fits all solution for every student in the program. And it doesn't work that way, if you really listen, if you really explore your entrepreneurial self and you start learning about marketing and sales techniques, you'll start, becoming acquainted with some of these gurus that are out there, some of these big name internet marketers. And one thing that you'll hear over and over and over again, apologize, I'm bumping the table and making the camera move, is you'll hear this story about how the 98% of people are not ready for success. 98% of the people are not going to make it. 98% of the people don't follow through. 98% of the people, you just hear this over and over again in a variety of different ways. And it's only the 2% that are ready to make it. They're the elite. They're the ones that are going to succeed, where the 98% won't. And I really believed that stuff for the longest time, and I worked real hard, and I took a lot of instruction. And over time, I always ended up, regardless of who my mentor was in this internet marketing field, when I started, eventually I started feeling like, okay, we're just rehashing the same stuff over again, and you're trying to take me down a path that fits you, not necessarily me. And it's part of this this program that you were probably taught as a guru. You were probably taught by some mentor. And I'm speaking, to the gurus that I've had in the past, the mentors that I've had in the past in these internet marketing programs that I paid for. You were probably taught by a mentor, and they taught you this methodology and told you that this is the methodology that works. And so then you pass it on, and then your students pass it on to their students, and so on and so forth. The problem with that is that the world changes, the society changes, and in particular, the market changes. The way that consumers value and spend their money on different things changes over time. But also, the technology has created these opportunities for change within us as the entrepreneurs, and the music business is a prime example of that. The music business has created opportunities for us to create these direct relationships with our fans. We are able to reach out and connect to fans all over the world, theoretically in an instant, by simply posting a YouTube video or doing something like a Google Live Hangouts, or now Facebook has a live feed. There's all these different ways where theoretically you can reach out and access and create new fans in an instant. And so the way that we communicate and the way that we connect to people is changing, and it's going to change even more. I'm not a tech guy, so I can't even imagine the ways that things will change in another 5 years, another 10 years. I back in 1992, I saw that the music industry was due for a change, and there were changes that were already occurring. And when Napster came around, and those other peer-to-peer sharing services like Napster, LimeWire, ShareBear, and all the others that came along, to me it's like, while Lars Ulrich, was standing in front of the courtroom talking about how this sharing of music is going to be the end of the industry, and it's damaging artists' ability to make money, I was already thinking, well, that may be true, Lars, but it's the future. It's going to happen. And so I already saw that, the internet was already changing the music industry, and I did see that there were going to come a time when the major labels were going to become obsolete because they were too big and too cumbersome to adapt to the way that the market was going to change, and that artists were going to have to learn more and more about entrepreneurship, about internet marketing, about internet promotions, and about psychology. That's a big one. One of the things that I study on, for my own purposes, for my own interest, is neuro-linguistic programming. And that's something that we could probably work into some of these blog posts, these articles, maybe even into some of these live broadcasts, understanding how to create rapport with people instantly is an invaluable technique. It's an invaluable knowledge that as an artist, definitely it'll improve your ability to take care of yourself as an artist, because you'll be able to generate rapport when you're networking with fans, with other artists, with other industry leaders, things like that. So that's something that we could talk about in the future. So what else? Like I said, this is my first one, so hopefully these will get better as time goes on, and I'll have a little bit more interesting rants. I kind of covered a lot of different stuff here tonight, and hopefully it'll go well. So thank you for watching this video, and I believe it is my 30 minutes are up. I scheduled this for a 30-minute broadcast, so I just want to I hope you guys are enjoying, and I want you to keep working and keep playing your instruments, keep making music, and keep coming back to the 7th Gen Academy, and I'll try to do my best to provide as much quality content for you guys as I can. One of the things I'm working on right now is some case studies of artists that are using kind of these new out of the box thinking type of methods to generate income. Very important stuff. So, all right. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you again next week. Take care.